life is unfair. But what if the very things you hate about your life or your circumstances are the very things that can make you unstoppable? Here are the 3 key points that I would like to touch in this video. Point number 1, life is unfair. You don't get to choose where you were born. You don't get to choose which family you're born in. You don't get to choose what circumstances your family is in when you're born. So you have 2 options when you hear this reality. Number 1 is often the option that most people are going to take, which is complain and be a victim. And honestly, as a human, that is a very valid response, and I understand those people. Option number 2, you accept that life is unfair, but you still choose to move forward. You still try to make a way out. I know that it's not easy, but then that's where you have to decide, is my will to get out of my situation strong enough to push through these obstacles, push through this unfairness and the unfortunate circumstance I'm in? Or is it a better alternative for me to just stay in the same situation and just every now and then complain about my situation? And that's why we have free will. You can choose to do either one. And you've heard this analogy. Life is like a game of cards. You don't control what cards you're dealt, but you control how you play with them. Point number 2, your challenges and your disadvantages can actually be your advantage. Let me explain how. For example, say a person is born into a very wealthy family, has never seen lack, does not view money the same way we do. And let's say, worst case scenario, this person is spoiled, right? They're never gonna have the same type of drive and motivation to chase after success and freedom as the person who's coming from nothing. When you have these challenges, lack of finances or lack of support, when you don't have mommy and daddy to help you out with an upcoming payment that you have to make, you are pushed to your limits, and you push your brain to figure out, how am I gonna make money? How am I gonna come up with this money by this deadline? You can learn a lot of skills just from being in a situation like that. You can learn how to network. You can learn how to, figure out different systems, different ways of paying that bill. You can figure out different ways that you may have never thought that you'd be able to make money, but now you're exploring new ways to make money, and that's overall gonna help you make money in the long run now. But think about this. When you're always under the shelter of your parents or someone who's gonna solve your problems for you, you are never gonna learn the critical thinking, the critical problem solving skills in order to solve those problems, because you don't have an incentive. Now you're just handing off all your problems to your parents or someone who's gonna help you out. But if you're isolated and you don't have anyone, you are forced to resolve that problem. And that type of problem solving mindset has personally in my college years helped me so much. Another advantage that you don't see in your challenges is the uncapped motivation that they can give you. Seeing struggle, seeing lack, all these things are literally motivation for you. It's not like a video that you watch on YouTube and you're motivated for a week. This is real life. Being honest with your situation, being honest with how your family's living. If that stuff doesn't get you motivated or try to be as resourceful as possible, then I don't think any video on YouTube is gonna help you with that. I don't need to watch something to get me motivated. I just need to look at the situation of my family, my friends, my loved ones. And you look at that and you realize the power that you have, that you can change their lives and you can change your life, you can be free. Then why wouldn't you do that, right? Why wouldn't you do whatever it takes, no matter the restrictions? It's like telling your future self, or that ideal picture you have of yourself who's wealthy and rich and has a successful business, for example, and you're telling him, I can't do that right now because I don't have this. I have this restriction. I can't do this right now. So I'm just gonna stay in my situation right now. No, you wouldn't do that. If you know that you're guaranteed success, you're gonna find a way to get there, right? You just need that path, right? You're gonna find a way to get there. And so going back over to what I've discussed in my other videos, going out of your comfort zone is something that your body and your mind is not gonna wanna do. But when you have your back against the wall, I think you can ignore what your body and mind wants. I think that's when you take over and you push and you try everything you have in your power. Because at the end of the day, even if you fail, which you probably won't, even if you fail, you will be at peace knowing that you did everything you could. All right, point 3, struggle is that fuel for your motivation. So building on what I just ended with in point 2, I was thinking about this topic and I was reminded of this story in the Bible of Joseph. And if you guys are familiar with the Bible, you would know the story of Joseph. If not, basically, Joseph, and this is not, going into depth of the story, but Jacob had many sons, and Joseph was one of the sons, and he was his favorite son. Jacob gave him special items, such as a robe that was super colorful, and he was clearly favored out of his brothers. The way I would like to frame this is this: there's two versions of Joseph. Number one is the one that I just described to you, the one who's favored and privileged by his dad and protected by him. And number two, the one who got abandoned and thrown into a well and was sold into slavery. He goes to slavery, betrayal, and hardships. And at the end, he becomes a very powerful person in Egypt. And that got me thinking, it's not that God just somehow magically put him into that powerful position. No. Joseph went through all the bad, all the struggle, all of the pain, and he became a great man. And so that got me thinking, which version of Joseph became that man who was super strong and super powerful? Was it the version that was protected by his dad, favored by his dad? Or was it the version that went through all the struggle, went through literally not having anything, being a slave? And the answer is clear. It's the second one, right? So the key takeaway from that is just that, yeah, we all have, hardship. We have struggle. I have struggles, you have struggles. And going back to that first point, life is unfair. We all have our own excuses or our own reasons. But the reality is, if you stop yourself from doing what you need to do to be successful and what you need to do to grow, that's your choice. You're gonna stay the same. Nothing is gonna be handed over to you, and learning that mentality of that no one's gonna save you, And this is not meant to be a video that's trying to scare you or trying to make you feel bad, right? Because the reality is, the world is a painful place, and I've seen a lot of struggle in my life and in my family's life. And for me, my goal is to be able to have that freedom, to be able to provide and to be able to protect my family. I am very convinced that you can turn your hardships and your struggles into uncapped motivation and use that fire to build something new that's going to push you to do things that you wouldn't have been pushed to otherwise. If this helps shift your perspective, I'd encourage you to share this with a friend who's going through struggle or someone you think that needs to hear this. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.